Welcome to episode 34 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I'm your host, Kofi Outlaw, and today on the couch with me is my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
What up?
And we brought back the first man to ever drop profanity on this podcast, which is probably why you haven't seen him in a while. J.K. Schmidt is with us again.
How's it going, guys?
And today we have a little bit different of a show. We're going to be running through our news today with the three of us here on the couch. But then we have a very special ending segment in which we are going to bring in a little special guest because we are going to be doing a pretty controversial review of Disney's Aladdin. So we're going to need some help for that. But before that, we got plenty of news to talk about today. We have new Star Wars images, some big new trailers that just dropped, and last but not least... Oh, wait, that's it. No, it's just...
I was like, wait, what are you dropping?
Yeah, no, I looked. We had four. I mean, we have like a set of things to talk about, but they're all trailers and images. So, trailers and images. Here we go. Starting right at the top, we are going to just do a quick one. DC Comics just dropped a new promo. Oh, we should talk comics. I guess this counts as comics. DC Comics dropped a new promo for their upcoming miniseries, Batman Last Night on Earth, which brings back the creative team of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo.
Yeah.
I had heard about this book, and it sounded interesting, but when I saw the trailer and, like, the way the trailer's laid out and the artwork and the concept for the book, I mean, this shot up to my, like, must-read list right now. Basically, it's Batman waking up in his kind of own version of, like, Flashpoint. I think that's fair to say. He wakes up in a world that's, like, vastly different. It's his post-apocalyptic, like, landscape. Where he begins to kind of walk around, and when he begins to find things out, this is a very different DC universe than we've ever seen, with the Justice League characters and some pretty big hints of some crazy stuff that's going to be happening with those different alternate versions of the character.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman's bald with a mohawk, looking like she just slaughters people for fun. We see some demented Green Lantern babies, like trying to smash Batman. And probably looks like there's a fleet of Superman clones or agents. I don't know what they are quite yet, but they're kind of patrolling the sky. And my favorite detail is Batman kind of alone in this wasteland, walking across this wasteland with a Joker head in a jar, Futurama style, which is like his Wilson to his Tom Hanks, I guess. And all of this just looks pretty epic. It has an aesthetic that looks kind of like The Dark Knight Returns in a way. We see this thing that might be like a Batmobile that has like crazy amounts of phallic things poking out of it, guns and whatnot. That looks like it came out of Frank Miller's world. But this was pretty interesting to me. I wanted to hear you guys' take on it because you guys are like bigger comic experts than me. So what'd you think?
I mean, I'm all in. Snyder has been talking about this story for a long time, and every time he would tease it,
I think it's like being set up as the wrap to their
like
Batman
he's
arc.
been like, I have this story, and he's just been talking about it for like 3 or 4 years now. I feel like, and you know, when he would describe like pieces of it, and you're like, okay, like I'm interested to see, but once you really see it all together, and that art looks fantastic. I've always that when Snyder is. I'm curious to see. It's only 3 issues. It's like a prestige here. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, DC Black Label.
Because
they're oversized. They're all 48. So really, it's like a 6-issue series. It'll be
a
full chunk of comics. It's just it won't be paced like a 6-issue series.
I'll be excited to see what Snyder's creativity is. Awesome when he hits. It's very much like Morrison. It's he comes up with some crazy ideas, and when all those coalesce into something like one through line that's consistent and that you actually get invested in, it's great. Sometimes it just loses its way a little bit because all these grand ideas don't ever quite gel. This one looks fantastic, and if it makes me feel better that it's a one story and done, not an ongoing thing of
exactly.
I think this will be great. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think this will be like one of the better
God.
alternative universe stories we've seen.
If it is, I mean, who knows? He finds a way to kind of make that stuff weave in. Is it a what if, or is it something that is actually in the canon?
Yeah, I mean, by alternative universe, I just mean like a different vision.
Yeah, a different look of where the universe
world
could go. Yeah. I think I'm kind of hit or miss on Snyder as it is because he's always does like it's the next big Batman story since the last big Batman story.
I mean, but he's fair to say. I mean, he has Court of Owls, Death of the Family, like stuff like that. I mean,
Metal,
and even stuff like Metal that is kind of debated amongst kind of fans. still has awesome elements in it. Like people can still look at stuff and go,
yeah, and a lot of characters he's created.
Yeah.
Are pretty freaking awesome, and are going to stick around for a long time.
this duo produces good stuff, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm excited for it just because, yeah, this feels already like it could be one of those epic classic Batman stories. And I feel like the framework for this is this very fantastical thing, and I like what Snyder does. He makes these crazy, like, very out there stories to essentially do, like, really intense psychological kind of mapping of, and it's been really interesting, like, Batman's whole Court of Owls with the trippy stuff and, like, him going back over his life. Death of the Family was just, like, a mind screw, basically.
I mean, Metal was essentially a Batman story about, you know, how, like, taking the wrong turns and how his paranoia, like, turns against him. Like, there was a bunch of, it was a very intense look at Batman for as much crazy stuff that happens in that book.
And this one sounds like Batman kind of, it's almost like It's a Wonderful Life in a weird way kind of Batman story.
that, yeah.
And Batman just being like, oh my God, like, I gotta pull it together if I ever get a chance to, like.
The very Wild Wild West, like, aesthetic. Like, very, like, that, just that trailer gives off those vibes. So,
kind of. So we're really curious to see more of that, and we'll be reading that, and we're all in for that. Cool. How do you think Tom King feels about it?
Oh man, I don't know what I'm allowed to say right now.
All right. I mean, let's move on.
I mean, I don't think, I know it was supposed to run at 100. I don't, I think he'll get the majority of that story that he wanted to tell out. Those last 15 issues were going to be essentially an epilogue.
Saying, what do you think Tom King's review of Batman Last Night on Earth will be? We'll see.
I don't think it'll be good. I mean, he's still going to be working with DC.
All right. Well,
so I think it's,
we're going to move right along. We're going to keep on moving and talk about one of our first big trailers that dropped today, Star Trek Picard. Yeah, Jean-Luc Picard. Jean-Luc Picard is back, people. Yeah, Patrick Stewart is back in this very kind of touching little ode to Captain Picard that sets up this new series. And it's a very kind of simple pastoral scene. He's basically in his vineyards making wine. And there's this voiceover.
Picard wine.
Yeah, Picard.
Vintage.
Yeah, vintage Picard wine. And, like, there's a voiceover kind of questioning, like, why has he fallen away? Why has he stepped away from Starfleet? Did he stop believing in like, the organization or himself or the universe? Like, what is going on? And, then we get a shot of Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard again, and everybody goes, ah! And, it was cool. It was a cool little tease. If I don't bring it out often, but I have a fair amount of Star Trek Next Generation geekdom because I was raised watching that. That was my first entry point into Star Wars. I just did it. Into Star Trek.
And you had to say it when a Star Wars
yeah, exactly. Star Trek was my first foray into Star Trek. And so, like, this means something to me and all the people they're kind of bringing back for the series. But it was good. It was a good introduction because the question of, Jamie Lovett has been on and broken it down for us. The question of, like, when this series takes place, how it could be connected to, like, the events of the movies that J.J. Abrams spun off and the destruction of Romulus and all this stuff, could be very interesting. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to this series very much. So, trailer was a good start for me. I mean, I hope we see something more expansive and sci-fi related, obviously, but this was just the beginning.
It seems like it's going for, like, that character focus, as opposed to the big bombastic sci-fi action that we've gotten from Discovery and the movies. So it's really interesting that was kind of the way to set the tone. I'm interested because I think we've seen that these kind of revivals, bringing back these characters that, like, we grew up with when we were kids, and then bringing them back for kind of, to retell their stories, or not retell, but add on to those stories. And we see these jaded people who have left their old lives behind. That doesn't always go over well. So I'm really interested in seeing.
I see what you did there. I understood that reference.
I'm really interested in seeing how the Star Trek fandom as a whole reacts to it, because as now, like, anytime we write an article about Star Trek Discoveries, we get, like, a handful of fans that are like, well, it's not the Orville. This sucks. This isn't the Star Trek that I grew up with. And they get mad at it. So I'm really interested in seeing, like, this is obviously catering to those people who might be lapsed and saying, like, hey, look, we care about you guys and we want to give you something that you've been asking for. Here's Picard back. But is it the Picard that you want? We'll find out.
Well, somebody could walk up to him on his planet, hand him a phaser. He'll look at it and just throw it over his shoulder.
Oh, I hope so. I hope they introduce like weird, cute aliens. You know,
He's just drinking like some weird alien milk or
he
something.
goes to a casino.
But he doesn't need alien milk because he's making his own wine.
Yeah. I want to try that now. I hope
really
they come out
want
with a tie-in wine.
I was gonna say I really want them to work that into the marketing campaign, please.
So I mean, if the show's a hit and they don't start selling like Picard wine,
I mean, that's a missed opportunity.
yeah, that's a missed opportunity. Game of Thrones has been getting that booze money for a long time.
Yeah.
It's time for somebody else to step in. All right, so you can check out the first trailer for Star Trek Picard on Comicbook.com and get your nostalgia on.
Coming soon to CBS All Access.
Yeah, coming to CBS All Access. Hell yeah. All right, so we're going to move right along. Reason why we brought out JK today is because he had something he was very passionate to talk about. We got a new series of Star Trek, The Rise of Skywalker promo images.
I was waiting to see if you did it.
What?
Star Trek: The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh my God! Did I? Ah!
I was totally gonna make a joke about it, and then you.
I actually did. All right, this is all going down in flames. All right, so we got a new set of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. This is why I don't put these two properties in the same show together. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker promo images. Famous photographer Annie Leibovitz has done these for every single one of these sequel trilogy installments. So we got the one for The Rise of Skywalker. Gave us something old, something new, possible teases. So JK, being one of our Star Wars experts, is going to be here and break it down for us, what we saw, what's exciting, and what you should pay some closer attention to.
Break it down. Yeah. Well, there were some really cool images in this photo spread, and Annie Leibovitz is just
not too shabby of a photographer. That Annie Leibovitz might have a career.
I think she has a career.
Yeah.
I think she has a career ahead of her. But she took some really awesome shots. We saw some revealing information. Like the Knights of Ren, we knew that they were kind of coming back, but we didn't know.
Yeah, this was the official confirmation that they're coming back with sites because we saw them in like loose marketing images that nobody had laid official claim to yet. So,
but we're obviously very much like a licensing company jumped the gun, and But so it's I'm sure a lot of fans are excited to see that will finally be explored. We got to see a picture.
And yet they gave us like the most undramatic picture of the night.
Right,
I know.
just surrounding
Just
like adjusting their helmets and getting stuff ready for.
So that's where the lasers are coming
That's
from.
not the best debut, but I still was excited because I didn't care. I was like, oh, hey,
and these guys. Yeah. No, but that was cool.
You got to see Kerry Russell's character, which is like a really cool sci-fi design.
My crush Felicity goes back to the 90s.
Good old JJ and Scott
awesome.
Speedman.
That design is killer.
That helmet is just
God.
Oh, the helmet.
So much Star Wars.
Aside from the Rocketeer jokes, though, it also looks like a type of ship. It looks like Boba Fett's ship.
It does,
on somebody's head, like Slaver One.
It looks very like that sleek tail in the back of it. Yeah, it looks really cool. And
that's gonna be cool. Carrie Russell was she was so badass on The Americans. I'm so excited to see her do like more action-oriented stuff.
She's worked with JJ a lot. She was in Mission Impossible 3, and she was badass
cool
in that.
scene.
Underutilized,
that is the worst Mission Impossible.
Well, I mean, that's how you get people emotionally invested. Is you take Carrie Russell and
Two's bad.
You take Carrie Russell and you have her brains blow up. That screwed a lot of us up. We were like, oh, God.
Two's bad, but 3 is forgettable. I feel like
That's
forgettable is worse than bad.
Yeah,
Two's
I would
like
say,
okay, we've ventured into Mission Impossible 5. 2 is like kind of a weak action movie, and 3 is a really good episode of TV.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. And Philip Seymour Hoffman kind of makes it. But I digress. There's more really good photos, like the whole duel between Rey and Kylo Ren. That's just moody and awesome. It's it evokes the same image that you saw their first duel on Starkiller Base. And then was probably the most intriguing image is Luke Skywalker standing there with R2-D2. And of course, you would immediately kind of think that it's back to that flashback scene that we saw in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. But I'm not so sure. That's the easy way to reveal that image. Say, look, we brought Luke back, and we're going to, do a flashback to the past and show what happened. But maybe The Rise of Skywalker is a little literal, and we're kind of overlooking that.
Yeah, there's been this theory. I wrote up on this. I mean, it is, just to be fair, like a promo image. So it's supposed to be just kind of capturing the spirit of the character. It's not necessarily like a literal still from the movie. So there's a lot of leeway there. But there is. I mean, it is expected. We know Mark Hamill's coming back for this movie. So it just depends on how he kind of appears. Is he just going to appear all cool and like fool somebody else because he's like, I'm a Force ghost now. I just haunt people. Like, and make them have duels that are not real. Like
Luke Skywalker becomes Casper.
yeah, I mean, I can see that, or he could. I mean, it could be a trick. There are a lot of people. The robot hand theory
Yeah, I know, I've seen that pop up
is
a
so
lot.
strong online that when he disappeared,
There was no robot hand.
his hand didn't drop off, presumably, and like, why would a Force ghost take a robot hand with them? Like, he might have been transported, or who knows? So, I mean, it's possible. There's a lot of theories floating around. I mean, we've seen images in the first trailer where that show like Rey hugging Carrie Fisher, who may or may not be alive. Leia may or may not be alive at that point in this story. But they go back to Finn's home or Poe's home planet because that ties into stuff that's been established in the canon. From, you know, him having a force tree and all that. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the table for this. Yeah, I was interested in the duel image because of, not so much because I don't think that duel will be particularly as important as where it takes place, which looks like it's on the ruins of the Death Star, which leads back into the theory that the fight starts one way before we get the one last reveal that kind of all of this is coming from Palpatine, who will be revealed, and there's theories that Matt Smith is going to be involved and get possessed by the Palpatine ghost, and then Rey and Kylo will have to fight him, and then it gets nuts. And then Kylo gets possessed, and that could be. I mean, that also could be what we're seeing in that duel scene is like Kylo gets possessed, but ultimately he takes the fall. And like
I just
Rey,
feel like
yeah,
I
it's nuts
just
all over
listened
the
to
place.
like Kofi's fan fiction of Star Wars.
No, these are
real.
actual theories.
I know, but
we're in
like-
that awesome sweet space right now where we don't know enough about the movie, but we're getting enough visuals where we can just go insane.
And then we'll go see it like we saw Endgame and go, oh wait, none of ours were right.
Oh no, this started with Last Jedi. Where nobody's theories are right, and like Palpatine's just a mural on a wall or something like that.
Like there will
Like,
be
people are gonna
one.
lose
There's
their
always
minds.
one that was like right on the money, but like it's always some really small, insignificant thing.
It's always someone who tweeted something 5 years ago.
Yeah.
like,
As a joke.
if
It's typically a
if
joke.
this happens, I win $1 million. And it does, and they just get
But they
retweets.
never win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just get
I mean,
retweets.
but it looks great, and more. It's looking like J.J. Abrams is really going to cap this thing and really well, or in like fitting fashion. I think it'll be less controversial than the
He's
Last
put my
Jedi.
mind at ease a little bit because coming from someone who really enjoyed The Last Jedi for the chances it took and the changing of things that it did from Force Awakens, when JJ was brought in, it was very much like savior syndrome. Like, oh, he's going to fix everything and it's going to be like Force Awakens. I didn't want that because I was like, you just made all this progress. Why are you going to regress? Go back. And seeing him in interviews and listening to him describe his approach to this movie that's changed has made me, like, I've become more faithful in that. Like, I've become more anticipatory of his.
Maybe there will be true balance brought to this sequel trilogy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I
See what he did there?
You had your light side, Force
good at
Awakens, your
that.
dark side, Last Jedi, and this will bring the balance.
the Gray Jedi.
Because
Great
he's just
coming
saying,
back, baby.
he's just saying things a lot like he's not, he's not paying so much attention to just like making the feel and the history of stuff. Like he's open to like Rian Johnson's movie and how divisive it was kind of opened him up for this one to just be like, I'm gonna sit and do stuff because I think it's the way to go. And I like that.
Sometimes
He's going
I
to
feel
bury
like-
the past. He's not going to kill it, though, because
I
he doesn't must.
I think
But, like,
I get the kind of the opposite vibe. I think most of that stuff is just like lip service to say like, oh, I really respect that, but we need to bring Luke back and we need to.
So you think when all is said and done, it'll very much be like a Force Awakens type?
I think it'll be a very safe conclusion.
It'll be Force Awakens
This is the end
through
of
the
9
prism
movies.
of The Last Jedi, because you can't throw that out. Like,
You can't. No, I mean you can easily do things to kind of backtrack it. You know, you
Yeah.
can put Rose in the background. You can not mention the fact that the Resistance is only a handful of people. You know, you can
You
do
can do something to bring back Luke. You can, like...
Yeah, there's-
like,
there-
there's any number.
I mean, it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm gonna love it. I know I am because I'm a shill. But I just am a little worried because The Last Jedi I had a huge impact on me, and it's become like one of my favorite Star Wars movies in general. So I just don't want him to change it. Just
Well, I don't either. I would.
No, I mean, the
Yeah.
whole point was to move forwards.
Yes.
And they're already starting that. The franchise is going to move forwards. This is supposed to end the Skywalker saga. So, yeah, a little nostalgia, but, like, yeah, you got to move things forward. Otherwise, what are we doing here?
I'll be disappointed if it's too safe. and that could very well happen.
All right, but we're gonna move along because we're gonna be talking about this. I mean, every time we get something new, so we're gonna move on to our big final trailer of the day that we're gonna be talking about. We had the trailer for Terminator: Dark Fate drop. We've been slowly tracking this movie because it's been getting interesting as we've heard more. James Cameron's coming back to produce. Deadpool director Tim Miller is doing this. Linda Hamilton's coming back as Sarah Connor. We had Ghost Rider actor Gabriel Luna, not Diego Luna, Gabriel Luna, playing the new Terminator, and Mackenzie Davis playing a character we didn't know anything really for sure about, but now this trailer has kind of put some of those pieces in place. And so here's what we got. Basically, there's a new savior character. She's a young Hispanic girl who has Mackenzie Davis's kind of future soldier appear to protect her in the protector in the Kyle Reese role, except this time, apparently in the future, they're changing things up because now they have enhanced humans, is essentially what it is, cybernetically enhanced humans. Gabriel Luna is a new type of... No, I did it right. Gabriel Luna, like, I'm really freaking out right now. Gabriel Luna is a new type of Terminator. They've kind of, I call it the T-1800 as just like a joke because it's like a mix of the T-1000 from T2 and the T-800. He has a machine exoskeleton, but like a liquid metal exterior, and he can form into two versions
now
of
he's
himself.
Multiple man.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Like, yeah.
He absorbs metal and then like makes part of those.
Exactly. Like, and so like the liquid metal part can be its own Terminator, and then the exoskeleton can be its own Terminator, and like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. So, yeah, he's all upgraded, and Sarah Connor is coming back and helping to protect this young girl and helping Mackenzie Davis's character protect this girl, and we're off, and it's basically just a chase scene, and there's a lot of imagery that kind of invokes a lot about, a lot of socio-political stuff about like refugees and, fleeing and trying to get somewhere, and that whole immigration thing. That immigration thing.
Whole thing.
So, yeah, that whole thing. That sounded so condescending. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm just trying to move through the beat here. And so all of that was interesting. I didn't think, personally, this was the best cut trailer. I didn't think the music was that good for the imagery. And I didn't think the concept of how it was cut together was as good because it was like, hey, here's some sci-fi stuff. We're in a Terminator movie. I would have almost preferred they kind of started slow and just shown you something that looked like almost like a dramatic movie about a young girl's journey as a refugee, and then all of a sudden, like, it just kicks into full crazy horror Terminator thriller mode.
I could see that.
Yeah, and I think I would have liked that better, but I think it's intriguing enough and not as crazy or stupid as Genesis.
Well, I think that's why they went with this trailer because, I mean, from Terminator 3 to Genesis, Salvation, we've kind of seen glimpses of the post-apocalyptic future. And when you see T2, when we were kids, I think that's what we wanted to see next, but we thought that's what we wanted, and then we got it. We're like, this is not the Terminator movies that we really like. And so this was kind of like a, hey, remember Terminator 2? It's basically the same thing, but in the desert instead of Los Angeles.
And the trailers for those movies in between were very much in your face, like adrenaline, just like here's a bunch of action stuff, there's stuff blowing up, and this one is very different. I will say and it probably speaks to that the music didn't make much of an impression on me. Like I can't even recall what the music was. But the actual footage,
some song like
was
I'm going hunting, like it was just like
the footage itself though, like got me so on board. Like I was in. I was like, okay, I don't even.
Would it have been pandering if they put in that?
I would probably remember it.
I know. I mean, I feel like at first you'd be like, oh, but then once you think about it,
that melody has so many parts to it. You could take another part of it and kind of just thread it through before you kind of build to the official.
Like I agree, it could have been a better trailer. Yeah. But as for the footage doing what I feel like it's supposed to do, as far as like getting you excited for a movie, that aspect got me. Like
the plot's very intriguing. And that one of those things I wanted to ask you guys is, where was John Connor?
Yeah, that's a big question. Like, I mean, this is the big questions hanging over this after this first trailer. You see them go and meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who is this Arnold Schwarzenegger? Is he like an old Terminator who got retired after the whole John Connor thing, or is he just a human guy? Like
the basis of
the basis of the Terminators. and like all of that. Like, yeah, what happened? Why is Sarah Connor still doing her thing? But where's John Connor? Like, what's up with this new girl who's like the savior?
Great little plot. There's some great little threads.
What's changed in the future to make these new kinds of Terminators and these enhanced soldiers? Like, what's going on? So, if this does things right, yeah, this is another kind of small chase Terminator movie that will set up something bigger and hopefully a better future war story than we've had, because it seems like they're building up to that, but they're not going to deal with any of that in this movie. We'll just begin to get the new mythology.
But I feel like that, because coming from when we first talked about this on the show, I was very much like, I'm familiar with the Terminator movies. I am not by any means the hardest core Terminator person. Like, I don't have all that knowledge in my brain at a moment's notice as far as like what happened when this year and that year. And I came across kind of like when that footage first came up, was like, like it could be good. I'm not like hugely interested. And then the footage description came out. I was like, oh, that sounds great. And now this has come out. For those fans like me, kind of that mainstream audience that doesn't have the love, the genuine, just like, oh my God, we'll go see whatever is of this. I think this approach of let's make it, we're going to plant threads and things like that, but we need to make it palatable to an audience that is going to come out in droves, right?
Yeah.
I think that works in its benefit. It'll get those people like me into the theater.
Yeah, the other interesting thing was there was no mention of Skynet.
No.
That's one of those like deep cut lore things, though, that they don't have to do that in the first trailer. You know,
No.
by the second trailer, for fans that are still on the fence, they got to like look at the camera.
Yeah, but
like,
I meant in the
Skynet
sense
exists.
that like there's no voiceover about like this is Judgment Day and then like this happens and that, like all of that's gone. So
Yeah.
theoretically, like so far as we know, none of that's in play necessarily.
But that's the thing with like all these Terminator kind of reboots, like how they soft reboot and be like everything but T2 doesn't exist, and they've done that how many times? This is like the fourth time that they've done that, you know. So I think it's interesting because us as fans, we're waiting to see what will actually be acknowledged, what of the prior movies will kind of play into it, if any at all.
I love Cameron came out like on that featurette and was just like, the first thing he says is, this is the true sequel to T2. He's just like, done. Like, this is none of the other stuff happened. Like, we're done. And that was the first thing he said on the featurette, just to set the record straight.
Is this the first sequel since T2 that he's been involved with,
Yes.
too, right? He had nothing to do
No.
with 3 or Genesis or
Nope.
Salvation.
Nope.
Yeah, so
Nope.
it'll be interesting
This
to
is-
see
this
what
is
he
his
does.
true
Yeah.
return.
No. All right, so that's Terminator Dark Fate. You can check out that trailer on Comicbook.com. Stay tuned because when we come back, we're going to do a little personnel switch, and we're bringing in somebody special to help us review Disney's Aladdin. Okay, we are back, and as you can see, we have made one quick switch. We've subbed out J.K. Schmidt and brought in our own Charlie Ridgely, a.k.a. the most triggered man in our office, as you're known on this show.
That's not true.
Well,
Is
I
that
mean,
his nickname?
yeah, I mean, this is how we
It's a
refer
really
to
long
I refer to
nickname.
this is how I refer to Charlie every single time we mention him on the show.
No, you gave me a cool nickname when I first came on. I don't remember what it was.
Turn up Charlie?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
was it.
Go with that.
I know, but when we mention you on the show most often is in reference to something you've been
I guess I
triggered
need to
about.
listen to the
Like,
show more often so I can tell when you guys.
Wow.
Wow. Well, you can't get the guests out once you have them here. So now that we have you here, we have you here for a reason. You were our person to review Disney's Aladdin.
Yeah.
Which has been a somewhat controversial subject in this office. Specifically related to
Oh, it's been the
Yes.
most controversial thing in our office, particularly between you and I.
yeah, and which is why I brought you here, because Matt is, if you haven't learned from this show by now, Matt Aguilar is an avid Disney fan. Like, he gets that childlike wonder in his eyes about anything Disney related
I love it when he describes
pretty much all the time. And so he's been really, I mean, you've been really positive about these live action remakes, and you're excited generally for most of them.
Yes.
I think Dumbo's been like the one exception that you're not as excited
Yeah, and
for.
that's just because I didn't care about Dumbo as a kid.
And fair enough, not a lot of people did. So you've been positive about this Aladdin remake, even though there's been a lot of skepticism about it. And you know, the backstory to all this is in our office, the biggest naysayer about Aladdin has been Mr.
It's
Charlie
Charlie
Ridgely.
Ridgely.
But I want to clear that up. Only recently, because the trailer came out, and I thought the trailer looked really good. I love the casting of Will Smith. I dug the trailer. I was into it.
That's true.
But then they started releasing all those clips and TV
You
spots.
nosedived.
And
You
it
sent me a message
It looked so bad.
that said
It looked
Aladdin
so
is
bad.
ruined. You sent me a message.
It looked so bad.
There have been several people who have described in this office the psychological impact of Charlie's negativity towards Aladdin.
Say several people like it's more than two.
That's all you need. Like, all you need is several. And there might be one more in there that we're just not getting to. But here's the thing. Okay, so this was your attitude to Aladdin going in. You saw it. You reviewed it for us. And your review was...
So Matt told me I had to, if I went in and my mind was changed, I couldn't double down and just pretend like I hated it to keep face. I had to like admit to what I really felt about. And so I watched Aladdin on Tuesday night, and it really wasn't that bad.
So, okay.
It was all right. It was pretty
Take us through
good.
your full review.
So the movie is pretty fun. Will Smith is really funny. Aladdin is way better than he looks in the TV spots and in the clips. He's really charming. He has a great chemistry with both Genie and Jasmine. But Jasmine's really like the star of this movie in terms of what I think is the best part. I mean, it's about Aladdin, but she has such a significant role that she didn't in the original. And the way they wrote her role was really, really good. And Naomi Scott was the best performer in the movie. She's a new song in the movie called Speechless. It's the only new song
so
in the
good.
movie. It is so fantastic. Everything with her is awesome, and she brings it. But all the characters are great. Iago is different but cool. The Sultan's not a cartoon, which is fun. He's not a caricature. Will Smith is the most Will Smith he's been in a while, and I really appreciate that because I love Will Smith.
How is Nassim as the
She's
new character?
really, really goofy.
Okay.
And really, really wacky, but in a way that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
And she has a bigger role than you think, and her character is more important than you think. It's a big spoiler to the movie.
But you felt like at the end, like, okay, that was worthwhile.
Yeah, 100%. She added a new real B story to the movie that wasn't in the original one.
Okay.
That served a big arc throughout this film. And it kind of tied into Genie's story a little bit. There were some changes made to Genie, particularly at the end. That weren't in the original one. I don't want to say anything about what they are, because people are going to go see it this weekend. But the one real negative thing about this movie, and it sadly stretched, like it's the biggest thing about the movie, and that was the director. Guy Ritchie has a certain style, and I like Guy Ritchie movies. Mm-hmm. Guy Ritchie wasn't the guy for this movie. He was not the director for this movie. Not the best choice, and he had a real problem making creative decisions. A lot of like the shots throughout the movie, a lot of the staging, a lot of everything was just really bland, and there were not a lot of risks taken in the actual like direction of this. There was risks in the casting. Yeah. There were risks in some of the music and in some of the story changes, but there were no risks taken in the actual movie itself, which is really disappointing because Guy Ritchie's a risky director, and Aladdin is about taking risks and taking chances, and we didn't see that at all. And so there were times when it really could have elevated to something great, and it was just okay because of kind of how it was presented. It was it was a little bit less than the sum of its parts. All of the individual pieces were really fun and really good, but it didn't come together quite like it could have.
So, and this is one of the things, right? So I haven't seen it. I've seen it tonight, actually. Mm-hmm. I'm very much anticipating this movie. But Guy Ritchie was actually one of the things that initially turned me off to this movie, because I like Guy Ritchie in his element. And I was nothing about Aladdin to me screams Guy Ritchie, right? There are other Disney movies that absolutely would lend themselves more. But over the course of seeing, I know it's not as risky. I also don't necessarily see like Aladdin as a risky movie, but like I know it's not as risky, but I will say I will give him credit from what I've seen so far. Those clips and those trailers are absolutely stunning. And that's like Ritchie's movies are gorgeous visually.
Right.
They're, like those shots, there might not be as much movement or fluidity, but like there's a scene that perfectly describes it. So when they are sailing on the carpet after the do you trust me line, right? And they go off. There's a moment where Rajas goes up to the port, like the edge of the thing or whatever, and then they sail, and it's like almost completely quiet, but all you hear is like the goings on in the city below, and you hear like you'll hear a voice here or there, and you hear the wind, and there is such a magical part to that is actually, it's subtle and it's nice. It's something that I actually didn't expect from this. I'm okay with that. Without, it's like, I don't need all, because there's so many numbers in this movie that are bombastic just in the nature of themselves. I don't necessarily need it to scream at me. I like subtlety.
Well, and I agree with that. And there are moments like that. And but even in the subtlety, there are creative, when I say risks, like there are creative ways to do things. And there are a couple shots like that one that are very, very, very good. Yeah. But it's a lot of time, when there's a conversation between Aladdin and Jasmine that's really intimate, it's a simple, like, there's a simple framed headshot on Aladdin and a simple framed headshot on Jasmine going back and forth. There's nothing happening to put you in there with them. There's nothing happening to make you feel closer to them or what's happening. It's truly just like, here's two cameras set up. You guys have a conversation, and we'll use that. So, and it's really bland in that way.
So it sounds like on a film school level, not necessarily as tight. Do you think mainstream audiences, family audiences, people like that will notice all this, or do you think it's enough?
I think it's
covering it.
That's kind of a two-part question. It is. Everyone will have fun with this movie, I think.
I'm just saying people who aren't so versed in blocking, staging, things like that.
I think that a lot of people will look at that and see times when they're like, okay, well, like this was really fun. I enjoyed it. You feel like there's a little something missing. I think that's the feeling people will leave with. There's a little bit of something that I wish it had, and you might be able to put your finger on it. And to me, it feels like it's a lot of directorial choices that were left out. I don't think the specific staging things or blocking things might be something that everybody notices, but I think there will be a sense of like, it was good and I enjoyed it, but like I feel like there were moments it could have been a lot more and could have been a lot better. But I mean, it was still a fun movie. And some people hate on like the Will Smith stuff because it's kind of cheesy at times.
Well, I feel like
it's fun.
I feel like this movie has become, though, the current punching bag du jour just for the sake of that it exists. And I don't love that because it's just like, a bunch of people who haven't seen it or it's just like, but well, Will Smith is not this or whatever. Like I listened to the soundtrack and I know the soundtrack is also getting just beat up within this office. And I was like, it's fine. I can enjoy it. I really enjoyed Arabian Nights with Will Smith.
Arabian Nights was very, very
I don't even hate A Friend Like Me. That's probably my least favorite.
I like it in the movie. I don't like, and I love. My problem with Friend Like Me is still the end credits version that has DJ Khaled in it, because it's like you just end the movie and the credits start playing and you hear Will Smith coming in with like his classic 90s Will Smith movie credits rap and you're like, oh, I'm so excited, it's gonna be so corny and fun, and then you hear like DJ and it's like,
but that's all he does. Like he doesn't even kill the track.
It throws it off
I'm not
so
a DJ
heavily.
fan,
it throws it off so much when you hear it. But the soundtrack is very good.
What I think is weird and kind of understated about this movie is this movie reminds me a lot of ways as the Annie remake, in which like it's a remake, yes, but it's also a remake that's skewing towards a different audience. Like this is Aladdin for kind of a modern, like urban audience of people of color, like, black and brown people. That's why they actually went and cast,
which was awesome, by the way.
All those actors, as opposed to just, doing a whitewashed crazy version of it. I mean, the whitest thing about it is Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, for real.
And they were like, well, you're kind of urban, right? Like you do urban stuff. And I think that was the mistake.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think they should have just gone out and taken a chance on like a famous Bollywood director or something like that.
Well, and I say, if you want, kind of the final part of this movie is very much a quote company man, fill in the a Joe Johnston or Jon Favreau type where you're like, hey, can you, we have a vision of what you want, like what we want. Can you make that vision come true, but very, very good? And I think we kind of undersell the value of directors who can do that, who can step into a franchise or into a company and make something that they're like without their own vision, like they have, the Joe Johnston is always my best example. He made Captain America and he's very, very good at that. And I think that if you had someone like that, this movie would have been even a little better, even though they're not like a giant name, because they find all the fun in what's already there. Because you also could have gone the completely, wild visionary direction. You could have gone and gotten an Ava DuVernay. You could have gotten a Baz Luhrmann to do this. You know, something wild and crazy. You know, like
They already used
visionary,
Bill Condon,
visionary directors.
Yeah.
You know, but like they could have gotten a Tom Hooper or Rob Marshall who did Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Just someone who knows who knows how to handle things. And Guy Ritchie was very out of his element, and I think he did better than I expected him to.
This came together way, like, as far as even in trailers and clips, has come together way more than I ever expected.
He did a much better job at filling that role than I thought he would going in, but he did leave some to be.
All right. So Matt and Charlie are both still alive on the couch. So just to conclude this whole thing, Charlie, how would you rank this among the Disney live action movies?
I mean, honestly, it's up towards the top, if not at the top of my list, only because I haven't loved a lot of the Disney live action movies, and I love Disney. I've grown up Disney. I mean, I write a lot of Disney stuff for us here at the site, and I think Jungle Book was a better technical movie. It was more of an achievement, especially with the visual effects that they pulled off for that movie. John Favreau did a better job of making that come together. And Jungle Book and Aladdin are two of my favorite Disney films growing up, and I had high hopes for both of them. And so while I think that Jungle Book is a better movie, I enjoyed Aladdin more, and I will revisit Aladdin more than I will revisit the Jungle Book. I mean, it's not quite as good as the animated film, but I don't think we expect that. And also, the one thing that really caught me off guard with this movie is that they, especially with the story with Jasmine, they validated the reason for this movie's existence. Like, they updated it in a way that you're like, I understand why they needed that.
I don't love that idea, like, because when Kofi says, like, you can walk and chew gum. Like, these movies, because this comes up a lot, like, well, you're trying to replace. No one's trying to replace these. I love Beauty and the Beast as an animated movie, and I love Beauty and the Beast as a live action movie. They're companion pieces. These things are never meant to replace your childhood.
Right,
like,
and that's there is a notion though, because I watched the animated one right before I went and saw the other one, and there were things that could change, and this did a good job of. I love the
modernization, and you're right. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so there you have it. Aladdin, not as bad as Dumbo. Debatable
Definitely
about Beauty and the Beast or Jungle Book.
I think Lion King's gonna be better than all of them, though. That's
okay. Well, there you go. There you have it. So Matt feels validated. Everybody feels good. That's gonna do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. If you guys want to check out more of the show, we post new episodes every Wednesday, every Friday on the site. We also have an RSS feed you can subscribe to, or you can subscribe at your favorite listening place. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Playlist, Google Podcast, and you can tell any Alexa-powered device to play Comic Book Nation podcast, and it will fire up for you. If you like the show, please go on to one of these sites and leave us a positive review. We read reviews semi-regularly, and if we read one of your 5-star reviews, we will send you some comic book swag. If you want to continue any discussion, go on social media and find us at the hashtag Comic Book Nation. Also, you can find us individually. You can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Matt Aguilar CB.
And at Charlie Ridgely.
All right, and that'll do it for us. Also, be sure to check out our bonus episodes if you haven't been listening over the course of the last week. Some of our fans have been pleasantly surprised by how many episodes we've turned out. There's a Robert Pattinson Batman episode and a Game of Thrones wrap episode. These are both bonuses, kind of shorter, focused discussion, so be sure to check those out as well. All right, that'll do it for us. This is Comic Book Nation, and we are signing off.
Deuces.